So when you phoned me, I was completely naked, stood in the middle of my room, and just about to have a shower. And then I was like, "Sorry, Cole, I've got to go." Like Frank's ringing me for some reason, and then he's like, "Yo, man, you joining us?" I'm like, "What? Oh yeah, it's Thursday," and I'd completely forgotten it was Thursday.
And what did we do last week? Just to remind the audience.
I can't remember.
Hey Siri, set an alarm for 8 p.m. on Thursdays.
I know. Oh Jesus. So bad.
You're sitting there, standing there naked in the middle of the room with your phone beeping for an alarm, and you're like, probably nothing.
don't need this.
all the messages about where the link is and how to join. You know, this week's link for joining the call. Nothing there. All the topics that we've been discussing.
Just absolutely on mute, like just dead to the world. I might as well just insert my phone up my anus and just have
Let's all be honest, it wouldn't stay there for very long.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Right. Hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out. Tonight you're joined by my Lord and Master.
Good evening.
Frank. And we are joined by Stephen.
Good evening.
And I am Bright Till I Fly, and I'm useless. Hello. Frank, it seems that you've got something lined up for us in the...
We've all brought things. Have you not?
No. Myself.
Share with the class.
Someone's got to be...
Jack, you can bring your news item first.
My news item is... I'm a dickhead.
Well, I mean, you did come up at the weekend and we used the laser cutter.
Yes, and I have nice smelling bits of wood, thanks to you.
Fragrant.
I know. I did something useful. To be honest, I haven't been feeling quite myself recently, and I had a meeting on Tuesday, and I've done a lot of sleeping, so I've been doing a lot of self-care. I thought about flying today, but I just slept. So
you were dreaming about flying.
Sometimes it's got to be done.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm not with it. I have to live vicariously through you guys. I'm sorry. And your topics.
Well, have you been living vicariously through Andy RC's videos? Because he's put out a couple recently that have been very cool.
I've been worried about Andy RC because he's got a black eye, don't you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's from strapping his DJI goggles on for so long.
Oh my God.
Spending all day, every day in his goggles with his head tracking.
Does he even have anything without a head tracker on it these days? Like every time I see him fly something, he's got a head tracking pan and tilt on it. It's pretty impressive.
He's stepping it up. So I mean, he's had it on his Fun Cub for ages, and he's recently put it on an Acro Watt, which is it's a Chris Voss thing that's sort of a mid-wing sort of aerobatic type thing. No, an Acro Watt. There's lots of watts.
It's a foamy.
Yeah.
Right.
He's been putting that on. And he's also
got one of these crazy EDFs, hasn't he? Some like 6S or 8S EDF that tears around and makes a heck of a noise.
Yeah, he's been building himself up, so he's getting big red arrows foamy again, and the FMS one, and he put a Insta360 1R on it. It was the one that he posted today. So you got all this nice stabilized footage from the cockpit in going through all the sort of aerobatic maneuvers. And then
I saw him come in and land that thing. It's buttock clenching watching him come. He's doing proper landing on gear, and he's got foldable gear on it. And oh my word, as a quad pilot, that just looks terrifying. A lot of pressure there.
He's got his B cert. He's BMFA trained. He's old school. Yeah. He's a mode oneer. You know, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to him putting I'm looking forward to him putting the head tracking on the Red Arrows one and getting Phil up as well. I'm sure that's the plan. Is to have a 2-ship of the
that
FMS
EDF
Red Arrows.
Looks like something you wouldn't want to be facing the wrong way while flying. It's got a bit of
Well, at
speed.
least it hasn't got the blender in the open to get you.
Yeah, it's nicely packaged away in some nice
You
safety
get
foam.
foam first.
But yeah,
Foam first.
plane landings are much more stressful than quads, says Richard Warwick. Absolutely. Takeoffs, landings, all of these things, much
And they will-
scarier with planes.
They will continue to be until someone makes a carbon fiber plane. At which point, it's just the spectators will be scared.
Yeah, I think you might have to speak to Fossil Stuff about that one. I'm sure Martin's been talking about making a carbon fiber race wing crazy razor blade thing for quite a
That
while.
would be awesome. That might
Yeah.
be what it takes to get me into flying wings, that the knowledge that I wouldn't be able to destroy it the first time I landed it.
Yeah. I mean, Fossil is coming to LDO No in a couple of weeks' time, along with Menace, and NJ's going to be there, and quite a few other people. So yeah, hopefully there'll be lots of fun toys to see at LDO No. I know Menace is releasing something new between now and then, so hopefully he'll bring whatever it is along. Yeah, got some cool stuff. I mean, for this, LDO No was meant to just be a meet up in a field, try out the fields, make sure that's all nice and good. Actually see people again, just have a casual fly, very easy, not much setup. There's been a bit of feature creep. I do now have a car full of stuff that I'm bringing to LDO No already, mainly because I can't be bothered to unload the car up the stairs into the attic where I am right now. So it's just staying in the car between now and then. Yeah, we should have some good times. We'll see how much of it actually works. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing people and potentially adding a repeatable venue to the list, which would be nice.
I'm just watching this red arrow tear about the sky.
Oh, it's quite something, isn't it?
Oh my god. It makes me miss Andy RC so much. I miss my friend.
Maybe we can convince him to come back for our 6 years episode next week.
Oh, no way. 6 years.
I know.
Man, how the time... And we're Tony-less as well.
Yeah.
So, it's only me and you, Frank, with the original OGs left.
Well, there might be one or two others coming as well. You never know.
I know. 6 years, I know. I can't believe it myself.
It's a bit crazy, isn't it?
Good
Things
job,
have changed a lot.
What about that Magic FPV organised meetup in September?
Is this the one at the
Mines?
Yeah.
Is that Prop Fest?
No,
Yeah.
that one's next year, right?
I think so, yeah.
Because I think there's another one. There's one at the big house, which is Prop Fest, which is happening next year, I think. And then there's another one happening in a few weeks' time. That's in, yeah. Where was it? It was like a sort of the head of a mine unit at the pit winding. There we go. Caroline knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that works, because that is a thing. I mean, we were talking about FPV allocations and frequencies and everything last week with Cerberus. I've slightly gone off piste a little bit with the FPV frequency allocations for LDO No, and I can talk a little bit about my reasoning behind that. So with all the racing, which is obviously what Cerberus is going to be doing, and what a lot of the other events have been, where there has been a mix of analog and digital, and obviously a race, everyone is powering on and settling down and getting everything working. And then when everyone's working, then you're flying and racing, and then you know, finishing, landing, crashing, whatever, and then you're powering off, and then the next lot is starting up. So when you turn on your DJI goggles and it goes into public channel, it doesn't matter because no one's flying. But if we're just having a casual meetup where people might be turning on and off at different times, you're going to have this public channel powering on just while it's, you know, while you're finding your channel on your DJI unit. So,
right. If you mean if there's a collision, you get bumped into the public channel, so you unintentionally end up in public channel, even though you weren't supposed to be there, and you can't really do anything about it if someone's on that channel already.
Yeah, or if you're changing from, you know, if you've been flying on 50 and then you go back to 25, then it's going to start you off on the public channel, and then until you pick one. So
you want to get out of the way of the public channel just in case.
Yeah, so I'm rather than trying to squeeze in 6 channels and saying there's going to be, you know, just if someone accidentally goes onto the public channel, everyone's going to have a horrific load of intermodulation distortion because it basically reflects everyone onto everyone else, and it will all go horribly messy. Assume that there is going to be something on public channel. What's the best we can do? And if you have you can get 5 frequencies around that basically perfectly. So you can have, I'm going to have to look it up. I think it's R1, R3, R4, R8, and F7. And so you've got everything is nicely spaced out so that you basically get perfect IMD ratings until sort of both F7 might get a little bit of interference from public channel. We shall see, but otherwise this was kind of the way to make me most comfortable in thinking that, you know, because I know from painful experience how much a good event and everyone coming at the end of the day and going, that's a good day, depends on making sure that the frequencies all work nicely with each other. Because if you try and mess about with it and have too high a power or too many people on it, or not the right separation between where you're flying and where the pilots are, all of this kind of stuff, if you have any slight wiggles, if people are getting noise, you just have a lot of very grumpy pilots, and that's not a good day. So I've made sure that even with the public channel on there and everyone else using all the other channels, the rating on the ET Heli Tools IMD calculator is as good as IMD 6C at the moment. So for me, that's my, like, okay, I'm comfortable setting that out. We'll go with that. And then people can turn things on and off willy-nilly, and we hopefully don't have to worry about it. That is my reasoning behind that. We'll see how it works. Because it's obviously not going to be
pragmatic approach.
Yeah. So it's removing, you know, it's one fewer pilot at any one time, but it will mean that you can have people turning on and off and flying around as they like without having to all wait for everyone to land and then turn something else on and all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully it means that we can have someone flying out doing some endurance stuff just for hours and hours while someone else is going up and doing a 1 minute pack, doing just all out freestyle. That's the thinking.
That's cool.
So we'll try that out and we'll report back and see how that goes.
It's going to be an experiment, isn't it? But,
always.
Yeah.
Got lots of things to experiment with.
I think we've got a decent area, so hopefully people can also spread out a bit. You know, if there is a signal conflict, so long as we don't have people blasting 1 watt everywhere, which of course they won't do because it's illegal in this country.
Of course, no one would dare go above 25 milliwatts for fear of Ofcom, because they're, you know,
we love and respect you.
Trees have ears and antennas.
Right. Yeah,
do.
so hopefully we'll be able to, distance ourselves, just go for a bit of a walk and set up
Yeah.
away from everyone else to reduce those problems as well.
Yeah, we don't want to upset the Wi-Fi for the trees.
Trees have feelings too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And eyes.
Definitely.
And ears.
I do have a few backup locations as well. Like if everything goes horribly wrong and everyone's like, "This is terrible," I've already got plans and backup plans.
What about rain?
Determined.
What about the ultimate backup plan?
There's the hut at
A
the
solution for
main
rain.
site. We have a hut. It has chairs in. It has a microwave. It has a kettle. It has a toilet. It has a kitchen sink. There's a literal kitchen sink involved. We've got everything.
Wow.
There's a pizza oven. There's an outdoor
God,
pizza oven.
there's
I
living.
don't know if it works. I can't imagine anyone's used it for years, but it's there if someone wants to have a go.
Pizza oven.
It's probably worth
Like a
chucking
log-fired pizza oven.
Yeah. Like an
Awesome.
outdoor.
Is there wood there?
proper it's called Wood Farm, so probably.
No. Is it actually, that's his name, is it?
Yep.
It's in the countryside. I do remember them having trees last time I was there.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Dry wood, though, not wet wood.
Yeah. So hopefully it all works out.
I mean, I
fingers
remember the
crossed.
last LDO and like it heavily raining and then this Tupperware quad flying about and just being like totally. I mean, other than it nearly killed my Zune recorder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was horrible. But apart from that, we were huddled under this gazebo.
Yeah, that was quite good. Yeah, with the windscreen wiper on the front of the Tupperware box. Yeah, good.
Just all stood round like a little FPV screen, a little like.
I do have a can of conformant coating which I keep threatening to use.
Yeah, well, it's Peter Streeple's like, what is it? The Corrosion X.
You can buy them now. Was it Deep 6 or something? You buy them pre-waterproofed, and they ship you these funky little things like where they actually produce plastic seals that go over your flight controller and your VTX, and they even put little special rubber grommets, and they give you like specially cut bits of silicon that you can go in there to block up everything. And they're like, yeah, you can buy this ready-made. All you need to do is when you go flying, make sure that you like strap an empty drinks bottle onto the top just to make sure it doesn't sink. and they've got videos. They're like, they go into the water and they just take off straight out of the water, just flip upside down in the water, turtle mode in the water, and then take off. Absolutely magic. Yeah, the ultimate toy.
There is a lake nearby.
I know. I know. I've always wanted to do Let's Float Out. Me and Frank doing a bit of boating and
because I would quite like to do something on the sea because there are like rules about stuff in the waterways, and I'm like, but on the sea, it's the sea.
I thought you were going to say there's rules about what you can do in the UK, but once you're a couple of miles out.
Pirate radio LDO.
Oh no!
I'm running 50 watts.
Yep.
International waters.
Yeah.
I know. How many meters? How many miles out do you need to be for international waters?
They increased it because that was the get around for the old pirate radio back in the day, and they increased it a whole bunch to make it less easy to run radio stations out there. So, I'm not sure.
Damn it.
I mean, the alternative is get something into orbit, so
There's enough shit up there as it is.
It's like a collection of old takeaway containers up there right now. It's like a student flat with bits of foil just sort of cruising around.
Used to be 8 miles. Yeah, I heard it used to. Oh my god.
So I noticed something on a more technical note. It appears all those who were being chuffed about running BL Heli 32 may be slightly less chuffed because it looks like the latest release somewhat buggered up the ERPM measurement, which is bad news for anyone that was trying to use that to do filtering.
Yeah,
So
the RPM filtering that everyone was kind of raving about for.
yeah.
Oh,
And I've only got one BL Heli 32 quad because I'm a cheapskate. So I've been using BL Heli S for everything and experimenting with like JESC and Blue Jay and all this stuff. And I've been quite happy with that. And I got BL Heli 32. I'm like, right, let's get ready for the pro time, the serious ESCs. And then I open this app and I'm like, what the hell is this? It looks like complete Windows 95 garbage. But I persevered and I'm like, right, I'm sure I've got the smoothest flying quad now. And then, boom, spot this bug, and apparently it's measuring ERPM wrong. So if you're on 32.8, you probably want to downgrade to 32.7 right now, because it's introducing a ton of noise into the RPM measurements in 32.8 BL Heli 32.
oh,
Oops.
oops.
Yeah. The reason you would have gone to this latest version is to get the variable PWM. So the idea being you can get some grunty, like low frequency PWM for low throttle, and then when you up the throttle, it would shift into a higher speed PWM, which would give you better efficiency.
But why would you want to be in lower PWM?
Because torque is proportional to the strength of the magnetic field, and an inductor does not immediately generate a magnetic field. An inductor needs a little bit of time to build up the field.
Right.
And
So
apparently the difference between like 24 kilohertz and 48 kilohertz was enough that like the inductor wasn't having enough time in each of these pulses at 48 kilohertz to generate as much field as it did with 24 kilohertz, where it was switched on for a longer time and it just had the ability to generate a stronger field and get more torque.
Yeah, I had a brain fart and was thinking you were talking about like PWM going from the flight controller to the ESC, like it was 2015.
No, it's like the motor control PWM. Chris Ross has a nice little diagram on his video where he explains the wiring and everything.
The actual MOSFET putting current through the motor windings.
If you remember a while ago, there was a big fuss about everyone running like tiny whoops. Were discovering that if you use these fancy new BL Heli S firmwares and you went from the default 24 kilohertz with BL Heli S and you jumped up to 48 or 96 kilohertz, you were getting a lot more flight time, because there's a massive efficiency saving. When you go up to say 96 kilohertz on tiny whoops, you get minutes more flight time sometimes, and it makes a massive difference. But maybe it's not ready for the prime time just yet into this variable PWM.
If you're saying it's about, if the issue is, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. So the issue is if it switches too fast, your inductor isn't going to respond, because your coil in your motor is essentially an inductor, and it's going to reject you doing things quickly, because that's what coils want to do.
It takes time to saturate and build up the magnetic field, and it takes time for the field to drop off. And if you're trying to slice up that time into little chunks when it's on, and then have a chunk when it's off, and then a chunk when it's on, you're building up the field and then decaying, building up the field and decaying. And you just end up with less of a strong field available compared to having bigger, widest chunks when that field is on and generating that pull or push and then off.
Okay. And so
apparently maybe it's measurable. Like you seriously have to increase your PIDs when you go up to the higher PWM frequencies, because it's just not as responsive.
I'm just wondering, is that a case of it's because the tiny whoop motors are just spinning so literally fast that it makes a difference? Or is it because the coils themselves are smaller and so there is less inductance there? So I'm just wondering, is it a case of you don't really do you need the PWM to be variable during the course of a flight, or do you need it just to be variable in terms of this quad needs to run this kilohertz, this quad needs to run this kilohertz?
Kind of yes and no, right? Ideally, it helps if you've got a small quad to run on kind of a faster PWM frequency, because your smaller quad is it's that loss of torque isn't as much of a problem for your smaller quads, right? They don't necessarily need it, I think is the general guideline. I'm just going to try and turn the light on in here.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's like the battle of the LED lights for you guys.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to sync up with Frank, and I realised that just wasn't really working, so I went back to a more sensible
you
lighting
messed your
scheme.
colour.
Yeah, I go a bit orange when I try and turn the light on blue, and it makes me orange because I've got this dodgy webcam. Yeah, Sylvie.
This is a £20 Xiaomi Yi ripoff, like a ripoff of a ripoff of a ripoff at this point.
I can blame Runcam for this one.
Yeah. Ooh, nice. It's the USB
Runcam. It's also about 20 quid. Yeah.
Hmm.
But evidently £20 not as well spent as yours.
This one has the disadvantage of it's actually a little Android unit, and you have to tell it to go into a USB webcam mode, UVC mode.
Oh, right, yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't matter on this because it's running Windows at the moment. But when I have tried to run it on Linux doesn't tell it that it's accepted it, and so it immediately just kind of goes, "Oh, well, that didn't work, so I'll go back into."
Boo and likewise, yes.
Different modes, but anyway, drones.
Yeah, drones. So generally these tiny whoops, running 96 kilohertz. People say, "Oh, yeah, it's not quite as responsive," but you just get so much more battery time out of your battery that people don't complain as much. It's generally okay because you're not like thrashing the crap out of them.
I've seen Tiny Whoop racing at Wings and Wheels. They were running the crap out of some of them.
Yeah, you don't like hold the throttle wide open and try and punch out over a tree, though, do you?
There was
maybe you do.
I was stood outside chatting to the Cornwall lads, and someone managed to like crash out and then slip out the edge of the roof and sidewall of the tent, and was then outside the tent, and then we were chatting, and then all we heard was this whoop just go past us and then back into the tent.
Always trying those corner hacks.
Yeah, I know. It was really funny.
Clipping error.
As we just heard like doof on the side of the tent, looked, and then there's a whoop outside, and it just like nothing to see here, just boom straight in.
V-clipped through the tent in real life.
Nice.
So just bizarre.
Nice.
Oh man.
Anyway, so yeah, the idea was that you'd be able to switch PWM frequencies, and to be honest, I haven't heard anyone that wanted that feature. It was just a feature like, because we can do it, let's do it. It turns out. Maybe wait a little bit longer. Sounds like it complicated other things. But I'm a big fan of RPM filtering, so yeah, definitely get RPM filtering working if you haven't done already.
But avoid BL Heli, what was it?
32.8.
32.8.
Yeah, there's some graphs. I posted a link in the chat a few comments ago, and there's some nice pictures, and basically there's plots with 32.7 and 32.8, and 32.8 just has an F ton of noise over it compared to 32.7.
Bingo bad. Good to know. We'll wait for the next one. What else been going on? The CAA. I checked my email today and saw an email from the CAA saying we've made some recommendations about drone flying. You should read them. So I read them. So they're fairly short. They're basically saying make sure you have props and that they are attached, which is why I put a little.
Are they going to follow this up with guidance on making sure your motors are attached?
Probably. Yeah, they're doing the important things first. But yeah, so looking in the we did a poll as we were waiting while Jack was getting his clothes on.
Check not just the surface edge of the propeller, but also the hub/root and attachment points. What are we checking? Do we have propeller checking tools? Do you lick them? Just gnaw on it lightly?
Give them a little chew. Yeah, a little gnaw on them. Make sure they're like gnawing on
Yep, they're props.
Yeah.
That's what they were last time I checked.
Yeah, so we
Only
put
use original or manufacturer-approved parts. So all those prop whittlers out there, stop whittling those props. They're not safe.
No, yeah.
Yep.
Not safe to Dremel the end of your props off.
No.
Oh yeah, blunt nose. I forgot about those days.
The noise. How could you forget?
Yeah. But
Consider
yeah,
adding
in the
cross
chat.
checks to your pre-flight procedures. So along with have I plugged in the battery, I have to also now check the propellers. This is too much, Frank. I'm never going to get any flying done. It's outrageous.
but saying this, we did the poll. So the question was that we put in the poll in the chat while we're waiting for Jack to get his clothes on. Have you ever had a prop come loose accidentally? 84% said sure. Who hasn't? So there you go. The CAA has recognised this and is giving you good advice, because clearly it was because you weren't thinking about it and not because you failed.
Check your nuts,
somehow.
lads.
Yeah, check your nuts.
And women.
On the flip side, you can be a little bit too strong on those prop nuts, and I've actually disassembled some fancy blue alloy prop nuts that I got, which I thought looked the part and matched my blue standoff. So I was going to have the smoothest looking quad, and apparently, they're not. Those alloy prop nuts are not necessarily made to be strongly tightened. The manufacturer told me they sort of disassembled themselves, and I was left with a little disc of metal at the top, a little nylon washer, and just a regular nut.
So, wow, I'm impressed that the nut disassembled from itself before the nylock bit disassembled from it. That's quite quite an achievement there.
I use the prop fucker 2000 here, and on what are they?
For those of you listening at home, Jack has held up something orange and small.
A cordless screwdriver, I believe, with the old M5 attachment, or
no 8. The 8mm prop adapter tool, and it was the V3 T motors, and I got the nut so badly cross-threaded that bits of it spewed out the top.
Have you ever actually cracked the prop by tightening it?
No, never. I did in Radio C, but they were real shit props. They used to explode just by looking at them.
I still got a bag of King Kong props before they rebranded to LDARC. There were these 30-40 props that flew really beautifully, but the instant you tapped anything, they just exploded. Straight up exploded. Some of the best T-mount props for flying, but I went through bags of them.
Not good, man. I remember when I first met Frank, that was when you first could get the indestructible props.
Oh yeah. Well, that was the event where we learnt about them, wasn't it? Because there was like half the people going around and just like props disintegrating, and half the people like actually making it around a lap of a track without having their props disintegrate. And it's like, what? Mind blown.
Like people just giving them out, just being like, "Here, FPV family, this is the way."
Yeah, like because everyone was in the habit of like buying, an enormous bag of props for a session, and then they're like, "Oh, we can fly through these leaves, and the props come out the other side unscathed. I'm never going to need another pair of props again. Here, have them." Yeah,
I know. They're little thin as anything, thin and orange and bi-blade props.
I have a couple of sets down there somewhere.
Oh man, what I wouldn't give. Can you bring some to LDO No for me to give them a go?
I
want to see you explode them on a punch out.
They won't. They were literally like the countryside's littered full of them.
I will put them on the ZMR and bring them along, and you can do whatever you need to do with them.
Yeah, you need to clone the ID though for it.
Clone the. I've done all of that. No,
Wow, that's
I've
okay.
cloned the entire radio over. It's fine.
Oh, fantastic.
But yeah, I will also be bringing my baby try. Not that it's had the tail tune since it was last reflashed, however many years ago. So it probably won't fly, but I'll bring it. I'm looking forward to seeing Lurgies.
Has he sorted it?
I
Flying with
The fact that
3
you don't
props
know.
in the same direction.
yeah,
Exceedingly ambitious.
we'll find out, I guess.
He'll be flying in circles. That's how you'll spot him. It would be the guy flying in tight circles.
Angie is asking in the chat, will there be a helipad at LDO? No, he's bringing a fleet. I mean, the not quite a field hasn't been mown for about 10 years. It's had some goats on it. They might eat a helipad. I don't know. If we can sort of stake them in the middle and give them a short leash, maybe they'll just kind of eat out a nice helipad area.
I was going to say, keep
NJ
the
can
goat.
just 3D it and you just do the field. A couple of packs.
Yeah.
Blend his own.
Yeah.
Like you might want to keep the goats away from Menace because he had the shitty old goat. He might be slightly traumatized.
I think the idea is to keep the goats away from us anyway. So
okay.
NJ says that we should lay some food out in H shape. And that would suffice.
I'm not sure whether that's to mow out an H shape or whether the food is to go through the goat and leave some markings of an H shape.
Feed the goats some korma and then guide them.
Yeah. What else? What are you bringing anything exciting, either of you, to LDO now?
I was going to try and get some rovers going.
Oh, yes.
I've got 2 rovers, 3, but 1 is definitely an indoors one. I've got this tank that I've been meaning to work on for absolutely ages. It's got like an F7 in there and it's got the whole iNav set up with compass and everything. I had a couple of cameras, but I couldn't quite get the camera fixing properly, and I think it's still on D8, so I might move the tank over to Express LRS and upgrade it to the latest iNav and see if I can get that working.
The not a Mavic.
Ooh.
Because Sheldon's coming, so Sheldon can just. But Frank, can you buy me some more props, please?
So I saw someone else who did a not a Mavic, and they had this funky little thing where they used the original props, but they put a 3D printed bit in that stopped the props rotating, stopped the blades rotating, and just turned them into regular bi-blades.
Yeah, we can't be asked for that. Not us.
Fair enough. F that.
I mean,
put some regular props on it.
Yeah, the props flex and then just smash onto the side of the Mavic anyway. So it's had about 3 or 4 new top plates.
Hang on, they flex, and how would they hit the side of the Mavic if they didn't hit it in its original form? The arms are the same length, aren't they? How does that work?
They flex. Yeah, once you flex down, you've got this slight flaring out the back, and they flex down and then hit the back of the of the Mavic. That's because it's that shape. It's triangular shaped.
Because you're actually putting enough like deflection on the prop from punching it that you cause the tip of to go down or up.
Into the side of the body. Yeah.
Wow.
So you've got like this angle. This angle, and usually it would clear, and then as you go down, it will hit the bottom.
Oops.
I can get the Mavic. Hang on.
Be cool to see it though.
Please do.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, and he's off. Yeah, so I've got a tank lurking around here somewhere, but I can't remember where I put it because I had to tidy up. I'm trying to make this make it look presentable around
Vaguely
it.
presentable. Yeah.
It's hidden somewhere.
That happens on a weekly basis, unfortunately.
I'm back.
Ooh.
I've got. Look at that. Full Mavic Pro. Look how sad. Like they label there. God damn, these people make me sick.
Where's the fucking thing? Ah, there you are.
We unfold it. We oh god, I've done it the wrong way. Hang on. This ain't in the CAA guidebook.
That's next week.
Hold your drone the correct way.
Careful, Jack. Right. They're only bringing out the guidance on chewing battery leaves next week.
Right, so you can see the back angles like a slope.
Oh yeah.
It's the actual body of the Mavic.
So,
Yeah.
but normally, if you're flying, the propeller would be going up rather than down. So, how is the
Yeah.
propeller going down? Yeah, I get that, but like, so if you rev it, the propeller's
Yeah.
going to flex up at the tip. So, how is it flexing down at the tip unless you're like
'Cause
flying in
we're
3D mode?
upside down towards the ground.
Oh, you were
see,
flying in 3D.
Sheldon.
it's the motor braking means that the propeller isn't generating enough thrust, and so it's being pushed by the air into the
tips.
arm of the Mavic.
Yeah, look,
Awesome.
see, you
Wow.
can kind of
Yeah.
see, you know,
Now
little
I
bits.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, you can kind of see the carnage that is being friends with Sheldon involves. We were trying the old rust the center bits in salt water so that they rust and then the props hold their shape.
You what? Eh?
What?
So I was trying to say there's actually a 3D printed doodad that stops the props folding, like stops them folding in.
Yeah, but that's more expensive than salt and water. There's metal pins in there.
I think there's qualifiers that need to be added to that, but I'm not sure whether I want to be Mr. Pedant.
Well, we discovered it from, you know, insurance drones coming back and their props being, you know, dunked in seawater.
Could you not
and they would
use
rust
super
in
glue?
place. Yeah, you could, but
yeah, exactly, like super glue or anything.
Yeah, but then you have to
like
individually
dumping
do
in
it.
salt
You know, salt and water. You know, you just chuck them all in there, laying out straight, and then they rust to seizure.
There's a certain terrifying logic to this, but it's still terrifying.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's a bit sketchy.
So anyway, Mr.
Ooh, tank.
I would open him up, but he's got far too many screws. So yeah, I've got a camera there. It looks like there's a baby Ratel that I earmarked out, and this is a Cadex EOS something, which is rubbish. I was going to try and put the Ratel inside there. It's actually opening, and I've opened it, and there's a USB extension lead for configuring the flight controller down there as well, sort of all floating around in there. So USB extension lead.
Yeah.
So you can plug in your laptop inside of it. And it takes a 2S in the bottom.
Oh, fantastic.
I modded it from the janky connectors it comes with onto an XT30. So I've got a little XT30 on the bottom there. Doing, doing, doing.
Oh,
Yeah, it ain't fast, but it's kind of cute. And it's got a load of lead fishing weights in the nose because it used to want to go, which made it very difficult to FPV. So,
did you just used to see sky constantly?
Pretty much. And well, to be honest, even if it's not sky, it's an alternating view of ground, sky, which makes you want to hurl after about 10 seconds. So
yeah, I think that was Curry's experience with the OpenHD on the little car, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah.
There's a reason people don't really FPV cars. That they're kind of impossible to tune to the point where you're
Fat Sharks. That's where they came from, right? There's cars around.
Really?
Yeah, going around the paved racetracks, little model cars. That's where Fat Sharks started.
I guess if you're on really nice paved racetrack and you don't have seams and stuff, that would
exactly
work.
Yeah. Thank you, Caroline, for the donation. Unfortunately, because it went to LDO and not me, I don't get any of it because Frank says no. So thank you.
Someone recommending the Fimi X8 Mini. I think I've seen a couple of reviews for those up. Fimi has been doing stuff a while now. I must say I haven't really experimented with camera drones. The good old Fat Shark days. Speaking of Fat Shark, it looks like they've just released the new shiny, right? Shark Bite.
Hello, Spider.
I haven't seen anything about a new Shark Bite. Is that
so? They've just put some dedicated. You know, you used to have the old Limpet module that sat on the fan mount and kind of made your goggles really front heavy, and then it had panel antennas on it. Well, they've just released these Fat Shark Scout goggles. It looks like there's some pre-release versions that are being flogged on Get FPV. and it's going to be a Fat Shark goggle that just does like shark bite.
Yeah, they're little box goggles.
Yeah,
They're you know,
they're only
and
$250 though, which is hopeful. The trouble is, it's
1080.
$250 for this beta version. It's not the final product. They're these kind of like early release testing versions, and so it's not really clear whether they'll stick at 250 or they're going to shoot up. Because $250, if we get a fair conversion, should come to about 180 quid, which is it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's doable. I know it's 1080p screen in there as well, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From what I've
but with
heard.
no input, so you're kind of you're a bit effed if you want to use them for anything else.
That's literally what I was going to ask. Like, has it got any HDMI input?
And
any
you would have
HDMI
thought
output?
with Fat Shark's pedigree, look, the first thing they do when they release a digital goggle is they would absolutely get their existing customer base on board by including an analog module bay, but they appear to have just gone and not done that whatsoever.
Because also,
I mean,
to our audio
why fly
listeners, I'm
analog?
implying they were telling people to go forth and propagate.
yeah, I would have thought they'd want to make sure that not only because I mean that they're Fat Shark. It's not like they're TBS or someone who's like got to focus on selling the radio gear. Like
Yeah,
they've survived so far by selling goggles and let everyone else deal with the modules. You'd have thought they'd have an HDMI input that could accept DJI stuff, could accept OpenHD stuff, could accept whatever you throw at it, including phone, laptop,
it
whatever.
does give me a somewhat unfair impression of Fat Shark, but having seen DiviMath kind of step up and start to push this HD0 stuff, HD0 being the name of the actual DiviMath tech behind all of this that makes it tick, which is being rebranded by Fat Shark as SharkBite. Right now, you're actually seeing HD0 start to appear as a brand name from DiviMath, which is akin to like Richwave start to step up and say you're now going to see Richwave VTXs instead of Flywoo VTXs or Happy Model VTXs or whoever.
At the risk of sounding like an idiot, who is DiviMath?
So DiviMath are the people who make the chipsets in these, right?
Oh.
So like all the analog kit all basically has the same tuner on both ends that takes your signal and gives you actually isolates the signal, lets you send a composite signal from a camera and put it over the airwaves, or takes the signal off the airwaves and feed it out as a composite signal. So that digital solution also has a similar chip, which is taking something from your MIPI camera instead of a composite signal. I mean, the early ones I think actually did take composite. MIPI is just this 20-pin ribbon cable thing that they use for digital cameras. It's kind of similar to what DJI uses. MIPI really describes the electrical connector more than the actual interface, as far as I can figure.
Okay. So is it kind of like a embedded version of HDMI? Is that fair?
Oh man, it's more like saying a DB9 port or something. Well, because it doesn't actually say anything about the data that's carried across it, right? It just says there's this many pins in a plug. So it's like it's saying it's a JST plug, I guess, would be a good answer.
Right. Okay.
It says your camera uses a JST plug, and there's common conventions that go with that, but obviously you can't plug a SharkBite camera into a DJI system, even if the cable's the same. So
it sounds like a challenge.
It doesn't necessarily say that it's signal compatible, it's just socket compatible. So the people who make all this stuff seem to be stepping up and coming out from behind the shadows somewhat, and are now starting to make more noise, and it does look a bit like Fat Shark are just sort of moving very slowly on this one, and the fact they weren't able to put analog in with the digital solution makes it feel like they've really just taken a reference implementation that the digital team's given them and just gone, all right, we'll put it in a shell and we'll sell it. And would it really have taken much effort for them to put a signal switcher in there so they could switch in an analog signal as well?
Well, I mean, I guess that kind of makes a bit of sense that, to take analog and make that into something that's gonna be another bit of hardware. I guess that's gonna be quite different. I don't know. I just feel like maybe that wouldn't be worth it. Although they're already presumably buying it in enough bulk and have all the connections and
But
know how
the
to
thing is,
do it.
they already produce goggles with HDMI in,
Yeah,
and they already have this module which runs with HDMI out. So,
yeah.
like, why couldn't they just have taken an existing pair of Fat Shark goggles and the Shark Bite module and just put it all in a single case without an
Yeah.
HDMI port exposed on the
I
outside,
would
and then
be
you still
I
have a
would
module bay?
be interested to know if there is actually some, there's usually some reasons behind this kind of thing. Jack, you know some people.
Do I?
So
Well, that's why I'm saying it. It looks like they've just taken a reference implementation and just chucked it in a case instead of actually engineering it.
We've had some Fat Shark people on the show before.
Yeah, they won't come on again. They hate us. They hate me. One of the two. But another thing that I've been sat here wondering is like, what antennas go on those goggles? Because like the little limpet module that you get for the normal Fat Sharks have got a nice little patch antenna. I'm like, they don't look like they come with antennas, let alone patch or otherwise.
So which goggles are these?
The Scout goggles.
So I think someone was saying that based on what we'd seen before, they were kind of expecting the Scout goggles to have a couple of panel antennas in the front, because that receiver box ships with, it's got your SMA mounts on top, but it includes 2 internal panel antennas at the front. Stepped out
so
by 15
they're
degrees
inside.
or something.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And if you look at the shell of the Scout, that's a logical goggle to choose if you want to wedge a couple of panels inside.
Cool. No worries. I was just slightly confused by it.
Just talking about patch antennas there, makes you think about, how there's been a sort of general development from sort of wound 3D bits of wire making antenna to having a PCB with traces on it, and those traces being an antenna. And there's been a couple of projects that I've seen recently doing a similar sort of thing with motors. So rather than having wound bits of copper wires making up a motor, people have been working on making sort of traces on a PCB to be a motor. Because sort of as
with the little iron rotor with magnets in there.
For low torque applications, I'd have thought, right?
Presumably. I feel like you're going to be fairly current limited, but if you have,
but I mean, it's your ESC current limited because it's on
exactly,
PCB?
PDB and all that kind of thing. Like you can get a lot of current going through a PCB. But that could
PCB
be
brushless motors. I mean, it sounds amazing for stuff like whoops, right? And that's going to be where it'll end up, if anything. And it makes me think of that really expensive little prototype quad that had a bunch of Python scripts with it. Was it called the FlyWee or Fly Mini or something that was very expensive? And it was around years ago. And there was a trend a while ago for things where the arms were part of the PCB. I don't know if you remember those really tiny little quads.
Yeah.
This all looks quite neat. Let's get... Oh, yeah, there we are. That's not too shabby, is it? It looks like he's moving a decent chunk of metal on that.
Yeah.
2.3 gram centimeters. That's not...
And he's got, the old square wave on the go.
Not terrible. For a first draft, it's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
The ESC built on board.
It's nice. Anything that can keep the weight down and make it cheaper to manufacture is going to be good, right?
I wonder if that's kind of more of a servo-y kind of thing. I don't know.
We've got a was not impressed in the chat there. Sounds like someone might have some experience with those.
Caroline was not impressed with PCB brushless motors. That's a shame. Well, maybe give it a year or two.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the application. I think a lot of stuff you could probably live with the fragility so long as you keep the weight down so that the impact force is really small. But obviously, you get up to like anything above like 2.5-inch props, it's going to be smashed to pieces.
Also think about the cost difference, because I mean, like, have you seen the machine you need to wind a motor?
Especially and people are always annoyed that the tiny motors aren't cheaper, but it's taking the same machinery and pretty much the same, magnets and labor to wind an 0802 as it takes to wind your like 2306.
So yeah, to be able to just go, it's going in the PCB process, which again, I mean, it's not a small, cheap, easy process, but it's the scale at which you can do things is just enormous.
I'm sure people like DJI would be happy to get on that because they don't care if their stuff breaks, do they? It's just more money for the warranty program.
Cool, yeah. I mean, that's probably because it's not going to be massive torque for a DJI thing, is it? It's going to be, they don't have a 10-to-1 thrust to weight ratio, do they? So
they don't do aggressive maneuvering either. It's pretty sloppy maneuvering, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Could be interesting to see, especially. I don't know if it would make it more miniaturized or not, because I mean, if you're having to put it on traces on a PCB, you're going to have minimum spacing on there compared to just like enameled copper wire.
I guess it depends if the PCB could be structural as well. And if you go really small, then your PCB could be structural. And it needs to be super small though. Jack, what are you taping together down there?
Oh, sorry, it was the Velcro from the fabric. I was just putting it away before I lost it.
No worries. I thought you were getting out the gaffer tape there.
No, check out the Sin RM.
Oh, no, I will check out Sin RM.
I've always been thinking about those synchronous reluctance motors. Apparently, I was thinking about those motors that Zoe FPV was banging on about ages ago. She was talking about some fantastic intelligent motor. I think it kind of included the ESC in the motor. There were some very precisely driven things.
Well, yeah. I've been following a lot of projects recently with a technology that Zoe FPV was talking about when she was wanted to make 3D quads much better and basically be able to have much better air mode on 3D quads was the phrase that I had in my head seconds ago.
Let's play dementia.
Field oriented control, FOC. So this is where you've got basically a sensored motor. So there's a magnet on your rotor of your motor, and then there's a sensor on that, using that to know exactly in what position your motor is at any second.
These were they. Yeah.
So rather than just using because usually your ESC doesn't actually know whether your motor is pointing directly north or whether it's 30 degrees out or where it is. It just knows, the magnetic
unless you've
field
got a really
changed.
posh crawler or something, right?
Exactly. It's just going, the field has changed, so therefore I'll switch the field the other way, or to the next field. But putting on this extra little sensor means that you know exactly what position it's in, and so you don't have to wait for the voltage to drop. You can just manually sort of adjust it on the fly, even when it's not spinning really fast. Because that's what, if you watch a slow-mo video of a normal motor on a quad actually spool up from being stationary, you'll see it kind of flap back and forth for a bit until it's fast enough and it's kind of built up enough momentum that the ESC can kind of
crawlers. People favor brushed motors because they talk about this cogging at low speeds, where you can actually watch the poles kind of chug past the motor, and then you get very bad control because you don't tend to have kind of full-on sinusoidal control and you don't know where the poles are. So this is a phenomenon you get at slow speeds where you're just jumping between the poles. And when you get up to a certain speed, that's just averaged out and it vanishes. But at slow speeds, that cogging where you're far enough away from a pole that you kind of leap towards it and then you slow and then you chug onto the next one. It's kind of unavoidable unless you have sensors, right?
Yeah, but it also means you can do other funky things. So Tom Stanton did this one with his. He had a helicopter with a compliant mechanism. It might not have been a compliant mechanism. It might have just been a couple of hinges So that instead of having a servo actuating the blades, it was just speeding up and slowing down the motor as it was, as the blades were going on the
Micro-pulsing
left
the
and right.
motor.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
torque pulsing the motor, and he had the blades on a hinge so that when he torqued the blades, it would alter the pitch. So he could actually get collective control of the blades.
Yes.
Without having a servo for.
Exactly. That's exactly. That is mind blowing. That is so cool. I would love to have, like, my dream would be to take the wing that I've built and haven't successfully flown yet, after however many years it's taken me to build it.
So wrong.
Well, it just sits there waiting for me to take it out, because it's gonna need a day of me relearning how to tune stuff in RGPilot and actually doing it for that. But I would love to take that and do that with that. So instead of having just the 2 servos doing thrust factoring of the 2 motors on the back of the wing, if it was just the torque pulsing, so there were just literally only 2 phenomenal moving parts on the entire wing, that would be amazing.
I wish I could find. I'm scrolling through Zoe FPV's feed now, trying to find the name of these special motors that were this all-in-one like sensor unit.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but evidently they didn't find the mass market they wanted. I think she wanted something like $100 a motor, and I guess that was just a hard no for most people.
I mean, for X class stuff, that's probably not too bad, is it?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, but these were only like 22 size. They were pricey, but they had that fantastic control, so you could just, because the trouble with 3D tends to be you need to really work very hard to control that point where you're changing from 3D to 2D, because you get this cruddy transition. So yeah. Apparently you can style your way through it if you're a good pilot, and you kind of give yourself a bit of hang time in between the 2 of them. IQ Motors, yes, someone says in the chat that's the one, IQ Motors. But I've tried doing 3D a bunch of times. It's fun. I don't always crash, but the transitions are definitely rough.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, I actually watched a Rotor Riot video this week, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was this bone drone, where they've it was someone else has come up with the concept, but they made a version of it. So you sort of move your motors basically in line with each other. So you just got a sort of cartoon bone with 2 motors at one end, 2 motors at the other. So they're very, very slightly offset.
Imagine when people say compressed X, they just take the piss, basically. And they compress it so much they have to put one motor upside down so the prop doesn't hit the motor next to it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what you're getting at.
And so you've just got this long, very long, thin drone. I just thought that looked great. That's absolutely up my street of weird builds.
As you can see, it is a sausage quad.
So I quite like the look of that. I would quite like to make a sort of X-class size one of those. I think that could be quite fun.
So yeah, I found IQ control.
Not to be confused. But yeah, it kind of. Hang on, let's have a look at. Hang on, there's it flying.
Yeah, I can't believe. I think Vanover was it who got it through this gap, and it's just an absolute piss take gap. That's hilarious.
They keep getting cleaner and cleaner as they go on. It's an impressive video. You should watch it.
Yeah. It's nice to see they're actually building new, interesting stuff and not just trying to wedge in a product in there. I do like it when they take these odd concepts and they really push them and go for it. Some good stuff there. I think they had some kind of flying race gates in the past, right? Odd stuff like that. They built this huge flying race gate, flew through it.
But I feel like this is the sort of thing that I should be doing with the laser cutter.
Yeah, make your own frames, go wild, do something a bit nutty.
What? The thing is like, what?
Make a flying race gate for LDO. No, make a flying race gate, a hovering gate.
It's very tempting, but I feel like I may have already overcommitted on things that I said I would prepare for LDO. So,
all right, You're like,
I'll stick it
actually,
on
I'm
the end
quite
of the
good with the
list.
laser cutter, and it's going to be running solid 23 hours a day for the next 3 weeks.
I would
Right,
love to do that, but it's unlikely.
So I found these IQ motors on Mouser. Who wants to guess how much an IQ motor is?
Well, on Mouser,
It's a 2306 2200 kV.
£130.
Actually, no. It's 74 quid.
Yeah.
So, but it weighs 114 grams. So it weighs almost as much as 4 regular motors. But you don't need an ESC. So there's that.
Yeah, but my ESCs aren't that heavy.
Right.
I mean, I guess
It looks pretty awesome.
Also, you're gonna have to run some long signal wires, presumably.
Yeah, it's got a UART in there. Apparently, you can program this. It runs a D-Shot 1200, so it'll do the regular D-Shot stuff, which is kind of cool.
Can you send me a link?
Look bloody cool. I'm putting links in the chat. Let me just dump it in here. So
when are you doing your CAN bus quads, Jack?
No one's released one.
What? No one's released what? They've really got CAN bus in INAF, haven't they? And ArduPilot certainly has.
Well, I don't like ArduPilot. All it does is like scream at you about what sensors you do or don't have.
You do not have the correct qualification to fly this quadcopter. Step away.
Oh, look at these, man. Look at this.
Beasts.
This is some serious stuff.
Yeah. Just feed it straight from the PDB into the
go
motor.
Down a bit. I want to see the geodesic structure.
It's not really that impressive. They just sort of wedged it against a wall. Okay, maybe. Bit of string just out of shot.
Yeah, it's not really how flying's meant to work.
No. They showed how the sausage was made by getting rid of it. How much? 76.
The thing is with that shot is at no point can you see the top of it, so there could just be a bloke with a bit of string.
No, they do show. Look, when it drops back down, you can.
No, they don't.
No,
they don't.
They do.
Staying out of shot.
Look here.
Come on.
No, that
they could have hidden a string in those pixels there.
All right. On that note, it's the end of the show, guys. You've been listening to another episode of Let's Drone Out, and it will be 6 years next episode, I believe. Massive shout out to all our patrons that keep us going. Thank you, Caroline, for the super chat. We appreciate it. You've been joined by our Lord and Master Andrew Sasrank.
Bye.
Do you want to give another shout out to LDO? No, are we full?
I mean, we might be able to squeeze in a couple more people, but it's pretty tight. It's a pretty exclusive club. If you're desperate, drop us a message. Let's drone out at gmail.com or wherever else you can find us.
So, and we've been joined by Stephen.
Thanks, guys.
It's weird not saying Belric anymore.
Whatever, man.
If he's there in the,
I could be Belric for you, Jack. It's okay.
Oh, thank you. And I've been Bright Sci-Fi. Thank you, guys, and good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.